Good morning. Welcome to Wellness in Motion. So this morning we're just going to take a few minutes and go through just a few exercises just to kind of get a little bit more awareness of what's going on in our lower trunk and pelvis as we're working, so that if you've got some spine pain, some hip pain, that you're kind of aware of maybe where some things are going wrong and how to correct them. So I have my mat, I have a towel roll. We're going to get started. We're going to keep the towel roll. We'll use it if we need it. All right. And I'll show you how to do that when we get there. So you're going to start down on your back. And just kind of hanging heavy into that mat there. And we're just going to do a couple of breaths here. Let's go ahead and take palms up to the ceiling. Get the backs of those shoulders on the mat. If you have to take your hands a little bit away from you, that's fine. We're just going to take a big breath into your belly. So think of the belly blowing up with air here. So inhale into that belly. Now, as you exhale, I want you to think of getting your rib cage very, very, very small and allowing your sits bones, those bones that you sit on, to come very close together. Exhale, and then exhale more than you think you can. And inhale through the nose again, into the belly. And exhale, rib cage and pelvis get very small as you exhale. Exhale, exhale. Inhale again through into the belly and inhaling through the nose. And then exhale, again, rib cage gets very, very small. Pelvis gets very, very small as you exhale. Now, as we're doing this work, a lot of times we're thinking very hard about what we're doing, and we'll find that our eyes are kind of looking up for information from our anterior lobe here. I want you to gaze down towards your knees, because what we're trying to facilitate is the flexors all the way down the spine, and having those eyes cast down towards your knees is going to help to get a little bit more of the flexors in the neck, which is one of the things that we want to have control of. We're going to inhale one more time. Inhale through that nose. Now, as you exhale, exhale like you're blowing through a very small straw. Rib cage gets small. Pelvis gets small. And then you're just going to rest. You should notice that your spine is a little heavier into the floor here. From here, we're going to do dead bug. So dead bug. You just want to keep that spine hanging heavy into the mat there. And the goal here, the name of this game, is to keep our pelvis very still, to keep that lumbar spine heavy onto the mat while we move our legs. So we're going to just bring your right knee into your chest and then place it back down. And left knee comes to the chest. Now, unlike your gym workouts, we're going for as little muscle energy as possible with that spine hanging heavy. And you're paying very close attention to how heavy the spine stays on the mat. Can you lift that without losing that connection in the lumbar spine? And here's where that towel roll comes in. If at any time during any of this work, you start to feel like that lumbar spine, you just don't have control of it, you're going to take your towel roll and we'll put it underneath the tailbone. We're not going to do it at this moment. From here, what we're going to do is do an open knee or a bent knee opening. And you open your left knee out to the side, and we're just going to let it come out to the side and back up. And then the right knee goes out to the side and back up. So you're going back and forth here. Now, note what's going on at your pelvis. So as you take your left knee to the side, does the right side of the spine stay heavy into the mat? Bring it back up as you take the right knee out. So you're actually focusing more on the side that isn't moving to make sure that it really isn't moving. If you find that on one side or the other that you can't take it all the way out without letting that opposite side come up, just reduce the range of motion instead of trying to make it happen. You're using what you have to facilitate and create more. Move back and forth. One more set. Left knee goes out and the right knee goes out and back up. This whole time, the surface layer belly muscle stays nice and soft because we're looking for those muscles right around the spine that control the movement of the spine. So from here, we're going to go ahead and go into a pelvic clock. And with this, I like to actually start with my sternum pressing into the mat because it gives me access to the flexion through my thoracic spine and creates a little bit more opening space in the lumbar. So right here, if I divide my pelvis into a clock, my pelvis is a clock face, my belly button is 12 o'clock, my tailbone is 6 o'clock, my right hip bone 3 o'clock, and my left hip bone, my left hip bone is 3 o'clock, my right hip bone is 9 o'clock. So that's where we're headed. So you can put your hands on the front of your hip bones here, just kind of see what's going on. And also I want you to monitor these belly muscles, that they are not poofing up and getting very hard. So start with your sternum. Your sternum drops down into the mat, your rib cage drops down, your belly button drops down, and then scoop. So all of this scoops out like an ice cream scoop, and your tailbone now is tipping up towards your knees, and you're at 12 o'clock. Now, if you tip to 6 o'clock, press your tailbone down, and now arch away from the mat. And then roll back down through. So the sternum, rib cage, belly button, tailbone tipping to the knees. And then back to 6 o'clock. Roll back through. We'll do 2 more of those. Roll down, sternum, rib cage, belly button, lengthen that spine. Think of putting an inch of space in between each vertebrae as the tailbone tips to the knees. And then tailbone back down to the mat to 6 o'clock. Arch away. And then just come back to center. Or that, again, that spine is just hanging heavy into the mat. And we'll do our 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So you press 3 o'clock. And press 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Again, thinking of lengthening, putting that inch of space in between each vertebrae. And then paying attention, sometimes one hip or the other will want to go to 2 o'clock instead of 3 o'clock, or it'll want to go to 4 o'clock. Make sure that you are going straight into that 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and you have control at each of those levels. And then you can roll down through the spine to go to 12 o'clock and circle the hips around the clock face, kind of like a second hand sweep all the way around. And now go the opposite way. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And we'll rest that there. The last thing we're going to do here is called Femur Arcs. So we did all of that to get us ready for what we're going to do now. And this may be where you end up needing your towel roll. You're going to draw a right knee to your chest, kind of like that dead bug. Now, again, that whole left side hanging heavy into the mat. And I do mean hanging heavy into the mat. And from here, touch that right toe down, bring it back up. So your knee stays at that 90-degree angle, and you touch the toes down and back up and down and back up. Now, if you're having a hard time, you feel like maybe that last piece of your lower back doesn't want to stay, go ahead and flex your foot. And now drop it down. See if that made a difference for you. Back up and down and back up and down and back up and down. And now let's try the other foot. So bringing it up, that lumbar spine hangs heavy into the mat, and you take the toes to the mat, back up, and toes to the mat. Really, again, focusing on what should not be moving. And down, back up. You can, again, flex the foot if you need to. Down, back up. Sometimes that gives you a little more connection into L5-S1, right there at the base of your spine. And down, and back up, and place that foot down. So I know for me, I have a lot of extension at my lower back, and I like to really, really control that L5-S1 region. So I'm going to take my towel roll and I'm going to place it right under my tailbone so that it makes it easier to keep my lumbar spine under control. And we're going to bring the right knee up and the left knee up. So right here, and I'm going to start with flexing my feet. And those collarbones open. And from here, belly button hangs heavy, and the heels go towards the mat. As soon as you feel like you get a loaf of bread right here, so you can put your hands here, you get that loaf of bread where everything starts to pop up. We don't want that. If you start to get pinching at the front of your hips, you don't want that. So all of this, pay very close attention to your range of motion. And that's about mine right there. It's not very big right now. It doesn't have to be. Eventually, we'll all be able to do all of it, even if we wait until we're in heaven. Right there. And then you can drop toes to the mat. What you're thinking about doing is allowing that femur bone to roll in the hip socket. You're trying to move the legs without moving the pelvis. Let them understand that they don't always have to move as a unit, but they can move separate. You can go back. Single foot. Good. And hug those knees into your chest. Rock that side to side. And one foot down at a time. And rest. And that's it for today. Hopefully that works really well. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, and I will get back with you. Thank you very much.